starting your own company in events, and it's not unusual. In fact, most people do that. Most of the event industry is made up of actually people who start their own companies. You know, mega events and things like that, you can be an accountant and work on a mega event, you know, but if you're doing event management, it's generally because you want to start your own event company. So I'm drawing on my experience here, and I've started a variety of companies, I've always worked for myself. So I even, believe it or not, had a wood turning business, turning out chairs and tables and verandas, but also musical instruments, which led to actually forming a group and touring about 20 or 30 countries, all of which I was running it all myself. Okay, that led in 1986 to me forming an agency where we, with a partnership, where we sent different acts to different types of, at that stage they weren't called events, but it could be parties or product launches or something like that. And then from that we just went into obviously running our own, like festivals and things. Then around the year 2000, I still working for myself, decided to start a consultancy, and that's this one here. So all of it has been successful, but there have been failures, and that's the nature of working for yourself. I mean, the great thing, of course, is that you're responsible for your failures and your successes. So this is a bit of a failure. I went to the government on this. This is a fabulous idea. I still think it's a great idea. This was about asset management and events, and it didn't get very far when we did the pitch to the New South Wales government. Never mind. So if you're going to start your own company and work for yourself, which I'd highly recommend, if you've got the right personality, the attitude, then there's three things that I've just divided into three to make it easier for you. This is called competency, and so it's knowledge, skills, and attitude. So knowledge, we'll start off with the blue thing. You've got to realise that most of the event industry is tiny companies. You've really got to look around, have a look, you know, it's weddings and product launches, things like that. The companies come and go. A bit like the restaurant industry, actually, quite similar. You know, restaurants come and go. It's highly mobile, meaning that you could be doing events anywhere in Sydney or in Brisbane, and it's different types of events. You know, the people I know in the event sector, they could just as easily be doing a corporate party as, let's say, a wedding or something like that. It is not mega events. And this is very important because they really, a lot of universities stress mega and major events. And I really get the feeling a lot of students go into this with the idea of actually getting their own company or having a small company, not fitting in as an accountant to the Olympics or something like that. Because when you get into those mega events, you don't actually do event management at all. You'll be doing some office job or something. They're just too big. Either way, competency is the measure of all these sort of things. And what actually happens in the industry is most companies, not in events, but any company and any government department are like huge whales. And the great thing about us is we're individuals and we're very flexible. We can move a lot quicker. We can come up with brilliant ideas, whereas the big whale just keeps moving along. And I'll explain that. So large companies are bureaucracies. It's almost inevitable. And of course, there's government departments and they're beset by, meaning it's a problem. They have managerialism, which is where everything is basically about middle management. It's the sort of stuff that you learn in a lot of management courses. And what happens in these big companies, you have the managers and they actually don't have operational experience. And their way of being successful is getting promoted. So in a lot of cases, they don't have ideas. In fact, ideas are a bit of a problem for them because that disrupts the position they're in. So you, on the other hand, have got lots of ideas, and that's why they need you. And they're very risk averse. They don't like doing anything that could upset their career path. which means that you have a huge advantage because you can think of whatever you like and come up with whatever you like. And if that company doesn't like it, you just go to the next one. It's pretty straightforward, actually. So they lack ideas and they lack flexibility, the ability to respond to new things that are happening. And given that current business is churning and moving all the time, you're in a good position now to start your own company if you want to. And don't forget, you're the king of your own company. You know, you're responsible for the successes and the failures. It's only you. That's what's so fabulous about it. So how do you get work? Now, I'll explain, don't forget what we're talking about is knowledge here. In a second, I'll explain about how you put a company together just quickly. The main thing when you work for yourself is that you've got to see the risk. What a huge company will see as risk, okay, you see as an opportunity. You've really got to look around for opportunities and come up with ideas. I'm constantly coming up with ideas. Even yesterday, I came up with a fabulous one, which I haven't worked through yet. And of course, yeah, when I explain it to other people, you know, who don't work for themselves, of course, they dismiss it straight away. Always a good indication for me when my ideas are dismissed because it means no one else has thought of them, okay, and no one can think of them, and that gives me a competitive edge. So when I'm pitching for work, or when I have pitched for work, it's usually you get 1 in 10. You know, you put up 10 proposals, you get 1. That's why that 1 has got to pay for all the work you did for the other 10. So keep that in mind. And sometimes it goes to 1 in 20. And of course, there's going to be lots of disappointments, and you've just got to be able to deal with it. You've got to be tough enough, resilient enough, robust enough. In fact, more than robust, you've got to be what's called anti-fragile, which means you've got to learn from your mistake and get stronger. So there's no 9 to 5 work in if you work for yourself. You're working all the time, on and off. You know, you have fabulous breaks and everything, but there's no 9 to 5, so you can forget that. And often you'll be working on weekends, particularly in the event industry. You know, I used to generally take a Monday off. But you'll also be getting calls at all times of the day, so you've got to be prepared for that, even at 2 a.m. It means if you have a family and work, it can work really well. You know, as my family grew up, it meant that I was around a lot, and then suddenly I was away for a lot. You know, it sort of comes and goes. So it depends on how. There's not a regularity. That's the issue, okay, with working for yourself. But the great thing is that you're not throwing all your eggs in one basket like people do when they have a job. And believe me, over my years, I have seen lots of people laid off and lose their job and just lose their mojo, you know, lose their will because they put everything into their job. And unfortunately, this might be a surprise for a lot of you, but the company or the government department actually doesn't care. They may look as though they do, right? They may have all kinds of things, but it's all risk. That's all they care about. So if you do put your eggs in one basket and get a job, just keep that in mind, that there is no reason whatsoever they can't just lay you off in a second. So that's the great thing I've always felt for having your own business. Even if you're working, even if you've got a job, it's good to have your own business on the side just in case. Okay. Now, these are my opinions, of course. You take them or leave them, just use your common sense. The main thing is that you should stand out. You should be different. People will come to you then to hire you. That's like I did. I mean, I in most of the jobs, in fact, lots, the people came to me, like in the Middle East, in all this, and the result was they knew what they were getting. I didn't have to convince them, and that's a big thing. A large part of this employment waltz that you do is about convincing these people to employ you. Well, I mean, if you stand out and if you have those sort of characteristics, people will come to you. Okay, so if you do decide to go down that path, then remember that there's a lot of legal stuff that you have to know. That's part of the knowledge thing. I've been in lots of partnerships. You've got to be very careful with them. Basically, it's about personality. In one of the partnerships I had, which was in the music industry, I had about 7 people in that group. It was called an implied oral partnership. I managed the whole thing, but it was a partnership. And some of those people stayed in that group for 20 years. And that's when you know things are working well. You know, when people want to stay in there, talented, fabulous people stay. Mind you, we had to get rid of a few, but anyway, you've got to get the tax worked out too. That's extremely important. That can really destroy you because you forget to charge for that. GST's obviously the 10%, or whatever it is these days, 10%. And getting a business number is very important in terms of payment and all the rest of it. Because although you're a tiny company of 1 person, or maybe 1 or 2, you're treated the same as BHP or IKEA or IBM. You have to follow the same laws, okay? And it can be quite disheartening. So get your head around that. Once you decide to do that, you'll have to get a company name or a name for your business, okay? So make sure that you come up with a good one, right? Because you're going to have to say it thousands and thousands of times. And you'll get very sick of any smart name that you might come up with, which you initially think is funny. Believe me, after a year, you won't think it's funny and you'll be annoyed by it. So come up with a name that you know that you could use for years and years without it going stale. And don't forget, if you are successful, you'll be going overseas, in which case you want to make sure the name of the company that you've got doesn't insult the people overseas. You'd be surprised how that can work. Get an accountant. There are no 2 ways about that. I've had the same accountant for many, many years, and although it can cost up to $5,000 to $10,000 a year, it is well worth it. Well worth it. Okay. The money that they save you, the concepts. Remember, they're doing business all the time, so they're fabulous. Insurance. Now, if you go for insurance, remember there's 2 types of insurance in the sense that there's one legally binding insurance, okay? Now, often people present insurance as something that's legal when it isn't. It's actually a contractual insurance, like insuring your car, right? If you don't have a car and you don't drive, you don't need to insure things like that. Okay, so be very careful with insurance. Find out, never mind what somebody says, and certainly don't believe what the insurance company says to you. Find out exactly what you need in terms of insurance.